Okay, so this is a hot button topic right now as Marvel Rivals is going through the same problem Overwatch did back in its heyday, the lack of a role queue. Going into a game and watching 4 or more people immediately pick DPS can be such a heart-wrenching feeling, especially because for some reason it seems 80% of these hardlockers can never actually kill a goddamn thing. It really boggles my mind that when we're losing extremely badly and these players are all 1 in 10, not a single one wants to switch to something that will give the team a leg to stand on. And I get it. I want to play the heroes I want to play too. I'm a Moon Knight main right now. But sometimes your team needs you to be the hero they need, not the one you want. Welcome to team-based games.
First time.
That being said, those of you who are newer to our hero shooters may be experiencing this frustration for the first time, and those of you Overwatch, Paladins, or whatever else players know how this goes. For the latter of you, I have a question though. Do you all remember in Overwatch why role queue was introduced in the first place? Let's talk about Overwatch for a minute. Any Overwatch veteran will tell you that the golden age of this game was between the years of 2016 and 2018. In this time, we received new maps, game modes, seasonal events, tons of earnable skins, PvE events, even the Overwatch League had gone through its inaugural 2017-2018 season and was a major success. The game was at its best and brightest, and players could not be happier. Did we have a role queue during this time? No, we didn't. The developers, like the Rivals devs, did not want to add role queue for similar reasons. So why did they eventually end up adding it? The reason was called GOAT's composition. Any Overwatch veteran worth their salt shudders at the mention of this composition. In 2019, a contenders esports team known as GOATS developed a new composition utilizing the, at the time, newly released anti-dive hero, Brigitte. Brigitte was designed to mitigate dive heroes such as Genji or Tracer with one-shot combos that stopped a dive in its tracks. This composition was designed to be a self-healing juggernaut, essentially turning the team into an unstoppable battering ram and running over the enemy team.
Puts a wall behind them. Gator asks for a bubble the instant he hits shift and barrels into the enemy without any regard for safety. Watch as the rest of GOATs immediately surge in, following up on the disruption caused by the unexpected charge. The damage is too much for Envision's main tank, and GOATs forces them back behind the choke. Considering their lack of damage-dealing heroes, GOAT sure deals a lot of damage. The triple healers in tandem with the triple tank allow brain-dead plays such as these, because nothing ever dies if the enemy team doesn't counter you properly.
The composition became so overpowered that not a single team at the highest level of play used anything else, and using different compositions in high-level competitive play was an insta-throw. The composition even reached gold lobbies with how overpowered it was, even if they didn't know exactly how to use it correctly. So what was the problem with this, and what does this have to do with role queue and Rivals? The major issue was that this composition included no DPS heroes. It made up of 3 tanks, Reinhardt, Zarya, and D.Va, and 3 supports, Lucio, Brigitte, and Moira. This sometimes was subbed out for an Ana or a Zen, depending on maps. So essentially, it came to a point where if you picked any DPS, you were already throwing the game before it even began, as GOAT's comp was supreme. Interest in the game and the esport began to die as every single game when you played or watched became this.
Right, because you have the cover and you force them to walk through.
Yep.
Janu looking for an opportunity to throw out that mecha suit for his self-destruct. Here it comes.
All right, yep, engage with the self-destruct. Doesn't get any kills, but it does create room for the Titans to walk in. They've got the Graviton Surge down as well, and they've got a kill on the Moth. They avoid the self-destruct from the other side. Now they use the sound barrier to keep themselves safe in Sinatra's grab. Super Dire Straits now just dead, and Choyobin soon to follow as well.
The devs spent the better part of a year repeatedly balancing the game to abolish GOAT's comp, but to no avail. They nerfed Brig, Reinhardt, D.Va, Moira, it didn't matter. DPS was dead.
They come through, split the Outlaws up, win that fight without ultimates. We do see the Outlaws are going to pull out Dante's Tracer. This has been some of the things that Outlaws fans have been waiting for is a good Tracer player on Houston. It's Jake on the far. This combo's worked well for them before, but as soon as they see the defensive setup, they will just simply swap it away. Crucial time lost here for the Outlaws.
Just letting the fans give their
And with the most popular role practically gone, the game was dying with it. The content drought we had while they were working on Overwatch 2 PvE didn't help either, but that's a topic for a different video. Role queue was a solution that was suggested from the start, and the devs did everything in their power to avoid it. After a year of failing to balance the game, however, they finally caved and brought in role queue. Did this fix the game? Obviously, no, it did not. The game began to suffer from another major issue. Being a DPS player, so the majority of the fan base, was like perpetually living in limbo. Quick play matches would take 7 to 10 minutes to find, and competitive games would sometimes be over an hour to find. Popular streamers had begun resorting to play other games while waiting in their queues. This is not the case now, as I am sure the team has optimized their queue in Overwatch. However, the game is also nowhere near as popular as it used to be, so not as many people are queuing. There is no reason to believe Rivals would not have a similar effect should a role queue be implemented, forcing DPS players to wait in long queues just because they picked the most fun role. Role queue did not fix Overwatch, and yet it did not totally break it either. It simply offered new challenges for the player base to face. And the reason role queue was implemented as a last resort, mind you, was because the game was already not in a good meta state, and the devs were helpless to fix it for so long. On top of that, Overwatch League was the IP's biggest investment, and GOATS was causing it to lose viewers. The fear of losing sponsors created pressure that was most probably a huge reason the devs felt forced to implement role queue. Rivals suffers no such issue currently. The game needs to be balanced, yes, but there is no situation where an entire role has become completely unviable to constitute something as drastic and restricting as role queue. We have to remember, you guys, this isn't Overwatch. Marvel Rivals was not created with the intention of being a highly competitive potential esport contender. It was made to be a fun, over-the-top shooter where you can play as your favorite heroes. It is meant to go after the Overwatch audience, yes, but also casual audiences that just want to be heroes with their friends and combine some fun abilities. I know it can be frustrating to want to play as your favorite hero and you just can't because you'll lose otherwise, but let's also remember where the game is in its life cycle. It has only been out 2 weeks, you guys. A large chunk of the player base currently playing are not going to stick around once the game loses novelty in the next few months. For the people who will stick around but don't have hero shooter experience, DPS is the easiest role to understand and pick up while you're starting. As we give it more time, people will understand the game and its heroes' abilities and dynamics more in depth, to a point we will likely see these new players pick up other roles. The game is still coming into its own, my friends, and adjustments need to be made as it begins to mature. But taking drastic actions such as role queue this early, just because there is a little bit of frustration over a common industry problem, could completely derail the game with lack of variability and long queue times. This isn't to say role queue will not eventually be added one day, nor is it to say role queue won't be needed one day. However, it will have to be a good reason, like GOAT's composition, to warrant something like that. And if the game is in a place like where the developers cannot even control the balance, we will have much bigger problems than 4 DPS per team. You guys, thank you so much for tuning in, as always, and if you made it to the end of the video, special thank you to you. The channel has steadily grown in the last month, and I want to keep the momentum going with more content as we roll into 2025. Hope you all have a great day, stay frosty, and I will catch you later.